small amount of papers how you use your truncation and your Boolean operators. And then we identify inclusion and exclusion criteria that are particular to our research. And then we sort and store the literature. So, to begin the process, we develop what is called a Pico. Now, this is something that is taught all the way through health research, but may be a little bit different in law, business, education, arts, but still very relevant for literature searching. The SEU library does have workshops on developing Picos and constructing a research question out of a Pico. So for quantitative research, the Pico is you identify who your population or the problem is. Then you identify what your intervention is for your topic, what your comparison is. Sometimes the comparison can be no comparison. And then what your outcome is or what your dependent variable is. Whereas in qualitative research, it forms a different Pico, population or problem, interest and context, because there's different things in each type of research. Now, sometimes our research topics don't fit into the Picos, and so there are other research frameworks out there that you can use to develop your research question. So what we're going to do, first of all, is we are going to develop a Pico for our research questions or our research topics that we're currently working on. Now, my field is in diet and mental health. So my PhD is on the role of dietary patterns in the risk of depression. So I will use that as an example today when we're doing our literature search, but I want you to also think about and write down what your research question and your Pico is as we go along. So for myself, my population is adults. Now, if you can't think of a population, it normally is just the general population and will just be adults. But when we think of other populations that can be used, there's children, elderly, Indigenous, there's also like jail populations, genders, all different types of populations that we can use to develop our research question. We then look at the intervention. So my intervention is healthy dietary patterns and their effect on the risk of depression, where my comparison is unhealthy dietary patterns. So diets with high levels of ultra-processed foods, etc. And that outcome, of course, is depression. So using that Pico framework, my research question is, what is the association between healthy dietary patterns, which is the intervention, compared to unhealthy dietary patterns, which is the comparator, in adults, which is the population experiencing the symptoms of depression? Now, what I want you to do is I want you to write down for a research topic that you're interested in, what your population, intervention, comparison, and outcome is, and then develop that into a research question. If you have any questions, put them into the chat. Even if it's qualitative. So if it's qualitative, I want you to think about what your population or your problem is, what your interest is, or what your context is. Other qualitative frameworks are here as well, but let's just try and stick to that Pico for now. If you have any trouble, let me know and I'll help you.
So sorry, I just raised my hand. I wasn't sure. I'm doing a qualitative research, and
Yep.
I was wondering, I already know my research question, but I am doing this as well. So your exercise. So I'm just thinking, like, with the interest part of it, did you mean topic of interest? Is that what that section?
That's right, yes.
Yeah.
So why don't you give me your research question and I can help you develop your Pico.
Yeah, thank you. So
Okay.
my research question, just give me 1 second. It is based around pedagogical content knowledge. So it was basically, I'm just bringing it up now. What are the skills and knowledges that, so it's an exploration of the skills and knowledges that experienced teachers of music in New South Wales consider most valuable and useful when teaching a stage 4 music program in the 21st century. So I kind of feel really like
yeah,
a lot. Yeah, that's a lot.
There's a couple of things going on there. So the spider might actually be better for you, which is the sample phenomenon of interest, design, evaluation, and research type, or setting, perspective, intervention, comparison, evaluation. Now, what we're trying to do with the Pico itself is we're trying to simplify and create keywords for you to do your database search.
Yeah.
So your population is teachers in Australian, what was it? Teachers.
New South Wales. I was mainly focusing on just in the state of New South Wales. So,
Yeah, great. So that's your population. So you do have a population.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Yes. And then what is skills and knowledges are
that are sort of that teachers find or consider most useful and valuable when teaching music.
So music teaching, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So music teachers in New South Wales is your population, and your interest is the skills and knowledges that they
consider.
That they consider in the 21st century. Awesome.
Yeah. Do you reckon if I add the 21st century, I'm just putting too many concepts in? Because I was a bit worried about blowing this up. It's only a minor research thesis.
Yeah. So the wonderful thing about database searching is that instead of writing the 21st century, you can just eliminate that keyword.
Yeah.
And when you're searching your database, you just limit your time period to the 21st century.
Yeah. So sorry, could you, sorry, my daughter just started saying something. I'm so sorry. Could you just say that again? With the 21st century, what did you mention again?
Yeah, so it might not need to be a keyword, because when we get to the database searching, you could then just put a time limit or a publication limit on the papers that you look, so that you're only looking for papers in the 21st century. Yeah,
so it's like kind of, I know what you mean. So you're filtering, you're just getting current research for this century, so to speak. Yeah.
That's right.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because I was worried it was going to start opening up other doorways, which it can potentially. Whenever you're talking about 21st century pedagogical content knowledge, you're starting to open up into the world of integrating technology into your teaching and learning. So it's like I was a bit worried it was just going to start that whole tangent. So I'm trying to keep the focus on my research problem, which is what is the skills and knowledges. So that's why I was just hoping to get some insight or perspective from someone else, what they thought on that.
Yeah. So that is quite good. So you just pull your keywords out of the research question. So a Pico can be done either way. So often we use a Pico to construct a research question, but if we already have a research question, we then can use the keywords in the research question to develop the Pico, and then we use those keywords in our literature search. Yeah.
Okay.
Does anyone else want to share what they've got for their Pico and their research question? Anna.
In the chat box.
Hi, Megan. I'm a little bit, I'm not sure, but this is something that I'm considering proposing, that do gastronomic entrepreneurs have a mindset like no other?
That's cool. So your population is gastronomic entrepreneurs.
Yes, okay.
So, and what your intervention is mindset, or is your outcome mindset? Are you trying to look at them?
I'm wanting to compare gastronomic entrepreneurs, say, to if you look at, there's so many different entrepreneurs out there, and it could be a comparison between gastronomic to event entrepreneurs, or,
Very good.
you know, something.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep. So your intervention is gastronomic entrepreneurs, your comparison is other entrepreneurs, and your outcome is mindset.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
good. Thank you. Yes. No, that makes sense, because I'm looking at it and I'm going, I just couldn't put it together. So thank you.
No problem. Does anyone else want to share?
I've got one, Megan.
Yes, go for it.
Sorry, it took me a while to find the microphone. So I've got population is sea anemones. Intervention is cutting them in half. Comparison is uncut, so leaving them not cut. And then the outcome is the survival. And I've sort of put that to how well do sea anemones survive when cut in half?
Very good. So survival rate is your outcome. That's perfect. So can you tell me what the research question is altogether?
Well, I didn't write that out as such. Oh, but well, my sentence for the Pico just says how well do sea anemones survive when cut in half, but I didn't include the comparison in that sentence. Should I have the comparison?
No, and that's a really good point. Thank you, Nicola. So although we do structure our Pico with a comparison in our research question, the comparator is usually dropped for the literature search because it does confuse the system and gives you too many papers. So very good, yes. Who would like to share next?
A few have been popped in the chat, but my one is I'm looking at secondary teacher wellbeing, and I'm looking at to what extent is vicarious trauma experienced by secondary teachers in a digitally disrupted age. So the outcome would be the trauma, I think. The population is Queensland secondary teachers, and the context is that our classrooms are full of digitally disrupted students.
Great, I love that. Very good. And that is a very good use of the qualitative Pico. Well done. Now in the chat, we've got a few here. We've got population of Christian schools, interests, dilemmas in Christian schools, RE religion and secularization. Good. We've also got how can we improve the completion rates for Indigenous vet students compared to non-Indigenous through program design. That's very, very well structured, Pico. Excellent. Yes, you're all getting it. We've got tea tree oil production as population, phosphorus rates as comparison, different P rates for comparison, and a relationship between biomass, leaf, stem, oil production, and oil composition as outcome. So there's quite a few dependent variables in that one. If you wanted to do a literature search on that, you may have to do them separately, the dependent variables or the outcome variables there. To what extent is vicarious trauma experienced by secondary teachers in digitally disrupted age? That was Carl, excellent. We've got population gamblers, EGM gamblers, intervention, how to limit harm from EGMs, comparison, unharmful commodities and outcomes safer gambling industry. Barb, I know that's you. Do you want to tell us what EGM stands for?
Sorry, what was that?
Want to tell us what EGM stands for?
Sorry, electronic gaming machines, pokies.
Great, great. How to limit harm from poker machines compared to unharmful commodities for a safer gambling industry. Great. What is the effect of cool burns on ground layer habitat? Ground dwelling creatures cultural burning compared to hot burn. Yeah, really good. Amount of habitat at ground level. I really like that one too. You've definitely all got the right idea about.
Hi.
Who am I moving now? I don't know how to mute all. I need to learn how to do that. I think I've already done it. Okay, cool. Let's go. Okay, so the next step, once we have our population intervention comparator and outcome, or our population intervention context, is we identify synonyms and related terms. So to do this, I'm going to use my example of nutrition and mental health. Because this one is everybody's got a brain and everybody eats, so we all know a little bit about nutrition and we all know a little bit about our brain, so this one will be easy for everybody to do. So my population is adults. So for the literature search, I may not need to find synonyms for that. In fact, I may not even need to put my population in at all because it is just a general population. However, other questions that we've had in the chat and that other people have done may have different words or different synonyms for those words in populations. So let's have a look at one of those. So, all right, people who are doing teachers as a population, name some synonyms for that so that we want to make sure that we get every single article that uses teachers. So what are some other words that we describe teachers as?
Trainers, educators, some examples.
Great, yeah. Any other synonyms for teachers? Instructors is good.
Assessors.
Yep, excellent. So my intervention was healthy dietary patterns. So what are some other words for that? What are some synonyms for diet or healthy diet?
Vegetables, protein.
Yeah, fruit and veg, very good.
Healthy food.
Yep.
Nutritious.
Nutritious, that's good. Because I'm in the field, I know that one of the biggest dietary patterns for health is this one.
Would you use terms like low fat and low sugar? It's obviously not my field. I'm just wondering.
Yep. Good. Yeah.
Whole food diet.
Whole food, very good.
Energy.
Yeah. Cool, you're getting the idea. So we're coming up with synonyms. Now the librarians are really, really handy at helping you with this part. So if you want to stop before you get to this part and book an appointment with a librarian, they have the most amazing way of finding synonyms for your words, and they use the databases to do so. My comparator is unhealthy dietary patterns. So what sort of synonyms do you think we have for that?
High sugar.
Yep.
High fat.
Yep.
Would you include overeating?
Yeah.
And maybe terms like, I don't know, binge eating?
Yep. Good.
Diabetes.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Junk food.
Good.
Disease.
Yeah. Another one is this one. Yeah, good, good. Getting the hang of it. And finally, our outcome is depression. So what are some other words for depression?
Mental health.
Yep, good. Any other words?
Suicide.
Low mood.
Yeah, good.
Despondent.
There's one, an old one.
Body image.
Yeah, that's cool.
Sad.
Yep. Excellent. Good. This is what we do with all of our P, our I, our C, and our O, is we complete all of the synonyms that we think would be involved. Now, the more you know the literature and the more you get to know your topic, the better you get at doing this. But if this is your first time at doing a specific topic, then the librarians are the best place to start. Excellent.
When we're going through this process at the start,
Mhm.
because I imagine some more synonyms will come up as we engage with the literature a little bit more. How many times should we be refining those lists? Is that just an always ongoing thing, or do we get to some point where we stop and go, no, that's enough. If I keep refining my list, I'll just find everything.
Yeah, that is a good question. And that will happen actually in the literature search. So when you do find your papers, one of the things that we try and do is to look at the keywords in the most relevant papers and then add those keywords to the literature search and run it again.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, but don't do that too many times or you'll get stuck back into the same old wading through maybe relevant, somewhat irrelevant papers. Whereas doing this process will give you very, very strategic papers specific to what you are looking for. Okay, so now we're going to move on to actually conducting our database search. But before we do that, we need to think about relevant databases. So we're going to go to the library now, because different databases are for different industries or fields of research. So this is the Southern Cross University Library we're all very familiar with. Most of us use this bar here to search for our papers, right? We just type in our keywords and we search. Now that'll search every single database that's inside of the Southern Cross University Library, but it won't give us anything specific usually, and it takes a long time to trawl through what we've got. So the library has a very, very handy function known as database searching. Now the databases themselves are specific to your field, and you can check which ones are most relevant to your field here. As we can see in the PowerPoint, health ones are like PubMed, Medline, PsycInfo, Snarl, Scopus. Field of education has Academic Search Premier, Teachers Reference Center, and ERIC. And I've never used business and law. I've used health and education, but I've never used business and law. So I believe that they have Business Source Premier, ProQuest, Emerald, ICLR, Lexis, and Westlaw. Now you can go to each of your separate databases and run your database search in each one. You can do that, and that's how I used to do my database searching. But someone taught me how to use Ebsco as an all-rounder, which looks at more than one database at once. So I'll be showing you that today because it's a very cool shortcut rather than having to go to 4 different databases and putting in your key searches every time. Now, can everyone see my screen, the databases screen?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so this is the Ebsco database, a database of databases, if you will, which is very cool. Now you can click on which of the databases you wish to run your search in. So if you're in education, you'd click on Academic Search Premier. If you're in health, ARMED is good. It's Allied and Complementary Medicine. So if you're looking at things that are a little bit left of centre in health, that's a good one. There's Business Source Premier. Synal is a health one. So I'm going to click on all of the healthy ones that I use. So Synal. There's Education Research Complete for education. There's ERIC for education. What are some of the ones I like to use? Humanities International is also good for education. There's Medline, it's amazing. Then we've got APA Psych Info, which is a Psych 1, Psychology and Behavioural Sciences collection. Because my topic is about depression, it's important to add the APA ones and the psychology ones in there, as well as some other medical and health related databases. Great. So now I've included 1, 2, 3, 4 databases in my search. Now, normally if you're doing a systematic literature review, 4 databases is the requirement. So Ebsco gives us that without having to go to all 4 separately, which is great. And this is what you will come up with. This is your advanced search box. Now there's 3 bars there. What do we think those bars are used for? What do you think goes in there?
Search terms.
Yeah, so your Pico search terms go in there. So the first bar will be your population if you have synonyms for that. The second will be your intervention, and the third will be your outcome or your interest and your context, depending on whether you're using qualitative research. So I'm going to start with, let's go and have a look.
Can I interrupt for a sec, Megan, please?
Yes.
There's a question that I was going to ask. Does Ebsco have any science databases? It does, doesn't it? Yeah, I thought so.
I'd say so, yeah, definitely. Okay, so I have done some truncation and Boolean operators here. I might go through those quickly just before we go into the database searching. So truncation and Boolean operators, we use them to avoid having to type things all out and type full words, and they are just little key shortcuts that we can use in the databases. So putting an asterisk or a star behind a word will include all of the words, will include every single word that has that at the beginning of it. So for example, for dietary patterns, if I just type in diet and an asterisk, it will include all words such as diets, dietary, dieting. Same with depression. If I put an asterisk just after the S, it'll include depression, depressive, depressed, depressed. If we use a asterisk in the middle, it will give us all the spellings. Now this is really handy for us when we use English, UK English compared to American English. It will give us both words from both UK and American, like colour spelt with a U or without. Also, if you've got words that are commonly hyphened but sometimes not hyphened, like low carbohydrate, you can put the asterisk between low and carb, and it will come up with every paper that has low carbohydrate with a space or low carbohydrate with a hyphen. Then we use our Boolean operators to include our synonyms. So these are our Boolean operators here, or and also not. So or in a line will include every type of that keyword. So you can have dietary patterns, or the Mediterranean diet, or the Western diet, or healthy diet, or unhealthy diet. So as you can see here, I'm putting my intervention and my comparator together in my search so I can find all papers on both intervention and comparator. So I want all the papers that have all these words, but I also want all the papers to have those words and depression. So I want to put and as my Boolean operator, depression or anhedonia or melancholy. Now, as you can see in this example, any words that are 2 or more, you need to put a quotation marks around so that they include that as one word. We've also got here, we've got an asterisk behind med, so that's Mediterranean or med diet, it's also called that. Western diet doesn't have it behind Western because it's only, but behind diet as well, we need it there because it could be diet, dietary pattern, diets, dieting, or unhealthy diet. So all the ones that have 2 or more words have a quotation, and you use your asterisks to denote if there's more letters behind the words. So let's use this in our live research. Now, I do like to put them in Word documents first before I put them into the databases. In case you do go and do separate databases, you've got one template to work on, and then you don't have to be going backwards and forwards, typing all of your keyword terms in. Now, quite often, if you do type into the boxes, they will give you some of your synonyms, which is great. But as you can see there, using depress and the asterisk would include every single thing that's in that list. So if you're having trouble coming up with these synonyms, the database itself will help you. You can also look up mesh terms in health, that's medical subject headings. And they will help you with that. If you want to learn more about that, see the Librarians, because it's a little bit more advanced than what we are talking about today. So I like to look for my Pico in just the abstract, because if you look through the whole paper, sometimes that will give too many. However, if you look through the abstract, you look in only the abstract and you don't get too many, you can branch it out to full text. So no fear. But to make things more specific, I always look for any abstract of any article that has these words in it. Now, of course, if you're doing a population and it has synonyms, you would add that. When I did my PhD, I did this topic in an umbrella review, which is a systematic review of systematic reviews. So I was only looking for systematic reviews and meta-analyses on that topic. So if you are looking for a certain type of article as well, you can type that in. If you're only looking for randomized control trials, keeping in mind there's a Z there, so you might want to put an asterisk. If you're only looking for papers with randomized control trials, you can put that into your search. If you're only looking for observational studies, you can put that into your search. And you can really wean it down. If you're looking for longitudinal studies, throw that into the search. However, right now we are wanting to look at all types of papers on diet and depression. Now, for the 4 databases that we have searched, they have some key criteria that you can click off. So this is your inclusion, exclusion criteria. You can pick what age range for your population. Because mine's adults, it probably won't need an age range. But if you're looking at children or elderly or young adults, then you can choose a population age range. Another very important thing is choosing the length of time of publication. Now, I always go from inception, from whenever the topic was invented until now. If you do choose to limit your publication range, you need to have a very good reason. Now, can someone tell me what a good reason might be to limit a range for publication? Currency?
Some of it could be out of date. I know with my field anyway, we're always told that we have to have the most recent stuff. Some of the things I've written, I've been told not to use anything older than 5 years.
Yep.
It's interesting you said that, because my supervisors have sort of said, you know, no more than 10 years. But I think for me, what I made sense of that by thinking, okay, well, maybe it's not just to have the most up-to-date sources, but also to give your overall research investigation some type of credibility. Like it's more, I guess just recent and applicable. So maybe it's got to do with that. I don't know.
Yeah, excellent. So if you're looking at doing just a literature review for your introduction or your literature review, limiting to the last 10 years is a good idea for recency and currency. If you're doing a systematic literature review, you usually want to see all of the papers on that topic from the time that it started, unless there has already been a systematic review done on that, and then you want to update it. So then you just go from that time. Another reason for limiting the recency of the literature is if something has changed in your topic at a specific point in time, which makes kind of the papers before that time outdated. So if there's changes in policy and practice that have happened, you would go from that date.
There's an interesting thing that happens with some science fields, Megan, that the name of species are changed when more is found out about them. So for that reason, sometimes you need to go backwards and forwards a few times to work out if they're talking about the same species.
Yeah.
And also we sometimes need to cite the very first time that species was identified. So that means going back. Right. Yeah, so it depends on the field, I reckon.
Yeah, definitely. And all of this is field specific. So everything that you will do in your search is specific to your field of research. So if anything that I say doesn't quite match, that will be why, because I'm very health and education focused. Now, other inclusion criteria that you can think of are you looking at human or animal studies? So you can limit your papers to that. Are you only going to look in the English language, or can you read and interpret papers in another language? I tend to not limit by English because there are systems out there now that interpret papers for you or can put them into English. So having the ability to look at all papers across the whole world, no matter what language, is really amazing. And of course, you need to make a decision whether you're only looking at peer-reviewed scholarly articles, or are you interested in grey literature? Are you interested in policy and practice documents? Are you interested in government documents? Are you interested in looking at what other people have done in theses and dissertations? So often grey literature can be very important to include depending on what your specific reason for your review is. Now, do we have any questions before we move on to running our database search?
Just a quick question. Say that you do have a lot of sources that are older than 10 years and is still relevant to your current research question. How can you justify using that? Do you just simply say, well, there's a gap, obviously, in the research along the lines of, you know, the fact that it hasn't really been recently researched? I don't know, like, what do you do in that situation? Because you have to justify everything like that you use. So if you can't seem to find a lot of sources that are within that 5 to 10 year range, how do you go on from there? Do you just use it and justify as best you can, or what would your advice be?
Yeah, so that is really good advice. If you can't find anything, it is very, very okay to go to historical documents and find them from there. One thing that I need to express to you all is that we often in our postgraduate studies get worried about not finding things. But one thing that I've learned is that no finding is a finding. And that's something I've been having a look at today. We did a scoping review on intermittent fasting and low carbohydrate diets in conjunction and their effect on metabolic health. And there was only 8 papers, and the journal got back to us and said, there's not enough papers in this scoping review for it to be relevant. And we wrote back to them and said, here are 5 papers that were published, 5 scoping review papers that were published that had 0 studies. So not finding enough evidence or not finding any evidence is a finding in itself. So always be aware of that. Non-significant findings are not no findings, which is great. No problems, Rebecca. Excellent. Yeah, and it takes a while to really have a think about that and get that like concrete in your brain, because that's one thing we're also worried about. What happens if my hypothesis is wrong? What happens if it's not proven? And that's happened to me in my PhD. A lot of what I found went against what I hypothesized originally. It took me a while to really be comfortable with that. But it has turned into a very cool discussion. You can talk more. You can have a much more interesting discussion if your findings are not what you thought they were going to be, which is really cool. All right, so let's run this database search. Okay, so these are our choices. So you can choose full text. That will eliminate any papers that don't have full text in the system though. So I don't do that. If there's no full text, I will find them in other ways by messaging my friends at other unis or trying to look them up on Google Scholar, things like that. So I don't usually use that too much. Scholarly review journals I normally do. I don't often use grey literature in my research, but someone who is more field specific, especially in topics that may look at government policy and practice or health policy and practice, would definitely use grey literature. Education would always use grey literature because there's so many things written out there in the education system that aren't peer reviewed. So I will always go from inception until now, so I don't change the publication date. I'm looking at human studies. We can look at English language, although what else have we got here? So there's all these different choices that you can make. You can do age here, so all the different ages. I'm kind of looking at 2 age groups, so I won't limit that unless I've got lots and lots of papers, and I will come back to this. Okay, let's run the search. Thank you, Marianne. Marianne has to go, but I will be able to send the recording to everybody. So don't worry about that. I'll send the recording and the slides to everyone who attended today. Cool. So my search for dietary patterns and depression found 1,105 results. Now I could go through all 1,100 of those results and determine by the title whether or not they are relevant. So let's have a look just at the first few. The associations between dietary patterns of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease patients and depression. So I probably would exclude that one because that's a very specific population. Or I might keep it because if I go and have a look in the paper, they might fit into my adult age range. So I may or may not keep that. So this is where you start having to make some decisions about your data. But there's an easier way of doing it. Now we could either use the 1,105 or we could bring down our search terms. So if we just go depressed and I like those two. Let's see. Yeah, I like it. Let's see if that one brings any less. Still 1,100. But we can go back to our expanders here that we applied to scholarly, English and human studies and bring them back and make them smaller. We can also go to the publication date. So I know that most of the papers on dietary patterns and depression, well, I know for a fact that the first one was written in 2008. So if I limit that publication date and run the search again, it might give me some more relevant papers. So just play around. It went up. No, it went down a little. We lost 100 papers. What else? So we could go through all of these and change. If we just wanted to look at diets or symptoms or major depression, we could change them to make that amount of papers smaller. Now, because I want to show you how this works, I might actually just look at all the systematic reviews and meta-analyses. So now I'm refining by type of paper. 68, so that's much more manageable than 1,000. And I'm only doing this to show you. If I was doing a literature review, I would go through the 1100 and show you how to sort them. So what we're going to do, once you have these, like I said, you can either go through them each and decide whether or not they are relevant to your research question. An easier way of doing so is by going to the page options, making the results per page larger, and always click apply or it won't work. Gotta wait a little while. Now, one thing interesting that has happened is when I have reduced the page options, it has extracted the duplicates. So what that means is that because we ran 4 different databases, searches through them, all 4 databases would have had similar papers or replications of papers. So when you sort by page options and you add them to your folder, I'll show you how to do that in a sec, it removes the duplicates from your results. So I had 68 papers, but I really only had 45 because there was 23 replications across the 4 databases. Now, I did the 1100 yesterday and sorted them into a folder, and I ended up with 568. So it removed nearly half the amount of papers. So that already helps you with sorting your database literature. So the next step is to put your results into a folder. So all you have to do is click on Add Results to Folder. Now, if there's more than 50, you have to scroll to the bottom of the page and click on the next page and then put the next 50 in. Now, I did that with the 1100 before it extracted the duplicate. So I had to do that 20 times or so when I did it yesterday.
Megan, can you just clarify where you're pointing to or how you're saving these? Sorry, I'm missing what you're doing.
Can you not see those? Can you not see my screen?
Yeah, I can see your screen, but I just don't know where you're pointing. You're saying saving, and I just don't know how you're saving these to wherever you're saving. Sorry.
Thank you, no problem. Okay, so over here in page options, can you see that?
Yes, I think the everybody's thing on the left is covering that. That's why. So page options, yep.
Yep, so page options, you go to results per page and you make it 50, and that'll bring up all 50 papers. And then you go to share, which is next to it on the right-hand side, and you click Add Results to Folder. Now, I've already done that, so they would be already in there.
Thank you.
And all the way over onto this right-hand side, you then click Folder View. So instead of going through, say, 1,100 papers in the databases, there is a way easier way of sorting them and deciding which ones are relevant. So that's your folder view. That folder view will have all the articles that you put into your folder, and then you can click over here on the right-hand side at Export. Now you have a choice of where you want to export your articles to. For those of you who like to use Endnote, software for citation sorting, you can directly export your papers to Endnote, and each citation will be
Hello.
into, hello. Each citation from those 45 or the 1100, depending on which one you choose, will go into your EndNote, and then you can use each citation to decide in EndNote whether or not they are relevant to your topic. Another really cool way of doing it is downloading to an Excel file. So I'm going to show you that one because it's pretty cool. So you just click on download to CSV, save the download, and it will pop up. Now the cool bit about this, that looks like a lot of information, doesn't it? So the things that you want to keep are the article's title. I would hide author. I'd keep journal title. I'd hide the ISSN. I'd hide the ISBN. Hide the publication date, volume, issue. Keeping in mind that if you hide these, you can unhide them later. Page numbers, accession, your DOI, publisher, type of document. That one's cool if you're looking at grey articles and scholarly because it breaks them up. Subjects, keywords, and then your p-link. And the most important part is this. You get your whole abstract. Then I just click all, wrap the text, and then you have every paper, its title, what journal it's in, and then your abstract. So you can go through each of those instead of opening each PDF and reading each paper. You can go through each of the abstracts and decide if it is relevant to your data, to your topic or not. It's so handy. In fact, one of the things I like to do is to Control H my keywords and make them bold, or make them capitals. So something like diet, I would replace with diet as capitals. And then you can find diet in your, or your keywords in your abstracts much easier. So if you've got like 1100 papers and some of them don't even have your keywords in there, you can get rid of them very quickly. So as you can see in this first abstract, we've got dietary interventions, we've got Mediterranean diet, we've got dietary patterns, and then we've got depression trials. So that probably would be relevant. This one here, cost effectiveness of a universal strategy of brief dietary interventions for primary prevention in primary care, population-based cohort study. By the title, I can't tell if it's to do with depression, but over here, is depression in there? I can't see it because when I've made depression capitals, it doesn't seem to be in there. So I would scrap that one. Same with this one. This one's dementia, so it probably wouldn't fit. This one's about depression, but it's in adolescent populations, so that one is also excluded from my key criteria. See how quick you can go through? Like imagine if you had 1100 papers. Yes?
Can I just check? That's the abstract, isn't it, that we're looking at then?
Yeah, so
Yep.
article title,
Yep.
the journal title, and the abstract.
Fabulous. Great idea.
Yeah. And I did have to go through 1100 pages at one stage. I did 2000 in a scoping review, which is crazy. But doing it this way and instantly being able to see those keywords in your abstract is so super helpful for determining if that paper is relevant to your literature review. Great. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go all the way back to the database search, and I'm going to get you to run your searches through the database using the criteria that we just went through, and we'll see if you have any questions about what your keywords return. So some might get no results, some might get lots of results, and we can go through them together and see what some of the key ways of fixing errors or issues that occur during database searching. So go for it, follow me, start with your SCU library, go to the databases. Tell me if I go too quick. Thank you, Kim. I will send the recording by email. The bold wording of the keywords is not automatic. You have to do it by pressing Control-H and then changing the small words into capitals. I can go through that again if you need. Right, so we're up to our databases. We will go to E for Ebsco. Click on the Ebsco databases. Log in with your SCU login. And then depending on your field of research, choose the databases that are specific. So this time I might do an education Pico. I'm going to do academic, search Premier. Is everyone following me? I'm not going too fast?
No, I'm following you. Thank you.
Great, great. I'm going to also use Education Research Complete, Eric, but you pick whatever databases are specific to your field.
Megan, can I ask a question?
Yes.
In the science, if I go into the science and the recommended databases, there's a few, and if I go into Ebsco, scroll down, none of the suggested science ones are in there.
Interesting. Okay, so let's have a look at Ebsco if there are any sciencey ones. The consumer medication, that was like business. What sort of science are you in?
Plant science.
Ooh,
Tea trees,
all right.
specifically.
Yeah, Ebsco, that's health, art, business, computers, econ, engineering. Oh, Greenfile offers well-researched information covering all aspects of human impact to the environment.
Yeah, that's
that
the only
true?
one that I could find, isn't it?
Yeah. So for you, you might have to go and do this across databases. But when you get to that folder, when you're clicking into the folders, you would do that for each database and then merge them, or you could merge your Excel file.
Okay, thank you.
Megan, can I just
Yes.
check how many databases are there for the education one that we should be clicking?
Yes, that's a very good question. So when I do my education research, I do academic search Premier, I do education research complete, I do ERIC, and I do teacher, where is it? Teacher reference center. So four. Four is
Sorry, I was just about to say, could you do any more than 4? Because I kind of picked one more, like I've got
Yeah.
5. Is that fine?
Yeah, 5 is completely fine. 4 is kind of the minimum-ish. But 5 is perfectly fine. Cool.
Did you say teacher reference center?
Yep. All right. So I'm going to get you to put your Picos in to the search bar. So what am I going to do? I'm going to do communities of practice.
And with those terms there, Megan, it looks really helpful with the autocomplete and those drop-down menus. But with communities of practice, would you need to have that string in the inverted commas?
Yes.
Because it's multiple text. So do we need to, even with the drop-down menus, do that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
thank
would.
you.
Maybe I want to look at rural, remote.
Oh.
Rural or remote or regional or any other. Okay, Nicola has come up with 2 papers. So let's talk about Nicola's search. Do you want to put your microphone on and we'll have a chat?
Yes. So all I went with was Academic Search Premier because that's the only thing that was relevant out of all of the options, which has probably limited my.
Yep. So is yours is in education, isn't it?
No. Mine is. I'm the sea anemone person.
Oh, that's why. Okay, you might have to go to some of the science ones separately.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I do remember ages ago, when we were doing undergrad, Academic Search Premier, we were told was okay, but obviously it's not particularly useful once I'm narrowing this down.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the people at the Marine Science Centre use Scopus. I just don't find it quite so user-friendly.
Yeah, Scopus is different. I can go and show you a bit of Scopus if you want.
Oh, if you've got time, I would love that. I usually avoid it because I just don't enjoy it. I find it really hard.
But it's a different platform to what we're used to. It's got different ways of using a different user interface. A bit annoying. Which is why I like to use Ebsco because they're all the same. Anna got 1,108 papers. So Anna, could you maybe remove some of your synonyms and tell me what you get? Although 1,100 papers is not really that bad. I would run with 1,100. I would do an Excel file of the 1,100 papers. I'd put all my keywords into capitals, and then I would just quickly go through the 1,100 papers and sort out the excluded versus included papers. 35,000 is too many. Yes, 35,000 is an amazing amount.
Yeah, I think I didn't have the right synonyms. I just typed in Indigenous and vet completion rate. So should you use the 3 boxes?
You can. It depends. Are you limiting your search by anything?
No, I think I need to.
Did you limit it to abstracts only?
Oh no, I forgot to do that. Thank you.
Try that.
That's
Tell me
the
what
trick.
happened.
Okay, thank you.
So there's so many reasons why we could get too many or not enough papers. Okay, now I have to remember Scopus. Let's go. I want to search for article, title, abstract, and keywords. I want to do see if it works for me. Actually, advanced search. Here we go. I'm more familiar with this. Okay, so always use the advanced search. Now, Scopus is a bit hard because it wants you to put in, before you run your keywords, it wants you to tell it where to find those keywords. So we always want to go title, abstract, and then it gives you a little parentheses, and you just pop your key search terms into those parentheses, exactly like you would do in that first bar.
I remember why I hate this, yes.
Yes, and then we put our and then you have to do the parentheses again. The title and abstract. No, that didn't work. Yes, and then it gives you parentheses again. Then you want to put your second search term into that. But it's exactly the same, but just with you having to nominate where you want to.
So where do you put that title abstract bit in every time?
So you just type in the words type.
Oh, you start to type that and it'll give it to you.
And it comes up, yeah.
Thank you.
But the problem is when you run Scopus, you have to run the search first and then you put your limiters in, your inclusion exclusion criteria at this stage. So we started with 900 documents, which is weird. Well, not really weird. We got 1,100 through Ebsco, but that was through 4 databases. This one's only 1. But then you would go through this and limit it. So we were limiting from kind of 2008. So we want to include all these years. All the way up to 2008. We want to limit to. Then it comes down to 815. Then we also want to limit to language. We could limit to English. There's 777. Then we could limit it to
I think I'd like to change topics, Megan. I've just found 3 documents putting my search terms in.
that's how you use Scopus.
I got a quick question. I'm looking for grey literature. So where would I find that? I'm in the advanced search tab, but I'm just come to the end of it and I can't seem to find it anywhere.
Commonly reviewed articles will eliminate your grey literature. By not clicking on that, your grey literature is included.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
I think your microphone's playing up, Megan.
Is that better?
A little better.
Okay, cool. So clicking on scholarly peer-reviewed journals will limit it to that. If you don't click on that, all your grey literature will be included.
Where's the where was that first thing you mentioned? Whereabouts is that located?
Yep, so in your Ebsco, it's like just one of the very first ones.
Is that where it says choose databases or?
Are you on the same page as me after you?
Yeah, I'm on the exact same. Oh, wow.
Can you see this one here?
No, you know what? I think I'm in something else. I'm in, I think, more of the advanced.
No, that's okay. Sometimes these won't come up depending on what databases you've got. And so let's have a look down the bottom. So they might come up as something else because they have very many different words for different things.
It says select a field, but I've just put education or school or learning or teaching because that's my. Yeah.
Oh, you're all the way back here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So. Sorry.
Are you all the way up? So let's go. So you've clicked on databases.
Yep.
And then it says find databases relevant to your subject area.
Yep. So I've already clicked on that. I've clicked on education.
Yeah. So I wouldn't go there especially for education. I would just go up to the E.
Yep. We're at Ebsco. I'm in Ebsco.
Yeah. So, you are in Ebsco.
Yeah. And I've clicked the 5. I've got 5 of like databases I've selected.
Okay.
That's going to apply to my research topic.
Which ones did you select?
I selected the music one. I also, because I'm specifically looking at music teachers.
Cool. Yeah,
And
that's
then
good.
I selected the academic search premiere,
Uh-huh.
the education research complete. I selected Eric and teacher research center, I think it was.
Okay, cool. And then continue. And then we should get our advanced search box. And then scholarly peer review journals is just here. Can you see that?
Scholarly peer review journals. I'm so sorry about my
That's
daughter.
okay.
I'm going to mute my thing.
Kayla's got 0 results. So, Kayla, you need to think about maybe bringing back your synonyms and going with just your keywords by themselves and removing any of your inclusion exclusion criteria. Run it again and tell me what you've got. If your topic is very, very new, it may not have any results.
On that page that you're on at the moment, Megan,
Yep.
Up next to where we enter our search terms, there are the options to limit the fields that we're looking for, but then also down in underneath where you are on the screen at the moment, for each of the different journals that have been selected, not journals, each different database, you can also do your document type there. If I'm limiting to just abstracts, do I need to worry about that document type
Not so
where
much.
you are on the screen at the moment, or do I just do that up the top?
You can do it up the top, like I did, put the systematic reviews and the meta-analyses in this box, or you could use document type and put in only the type of document that you want in there.
Oh, okay, so that box there is determining the document type that's searching, not where it is looking.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's the boxes up the top that limit the search to I'm looking in the abstract for these terms.
That's right.
Okay, cool. Now I understand. Thank you.
No problem.
I also just quickly, I've realised that I have already clicked scholarly peer-reviewed journals in. It's come up on the left-hand side under my current search bar where it's under limiters. So I've actually selected that already. I didn't even realise I did that.
That's okay.
So that brought up 1,026 results, which isn't too bad because I've actually tried to filter out a lot using some of the things that you've mentioned to do. It says that, okay, I can see the publication date could be more refined. So that range could be more refined. What would you consider to be a realistic amount to be like, okay, well, yeah, this is an acceptable amount. I'm just going to go with this. Like, when do you stop filtering down the amount of stuff?
Like I said, I've done 2,000 before, but that was because I was really, really concerned about missing a paper.
Yes, that's like me too. I'm always like, oh, there could be something out there. It's going to be beneficial.
If you have the time to go through all the abstracts in the Excel file for 2,000 papers, why not?
Yeah, I might just do that because then I can always just go back and put it into Endnote for the ones that I
Well, you
want.
can do both.
Yeah.
So, which is great, which is one of the great things about this.
Yeah. Just a quick question in relation to the Excel spreadsheet. So I've been doing a lot of research into literature review management, and there was a template that I downloaded from Grad Coach, and it's a free template. Basically, what it does is it can summarize your key literature in your topic for you, so it saves you time.
Cool.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's basically just got like author, year, title, category 1, 2, 3, document type, publication, knowledge type, key arguments, context, methodology, key quotes, and then your notes.
Great.
So is that something that you would say is worth doing at this stage of your research, or would you just keep it simple? And
yeah, no, I would completely recommend that. When I first started doing my honours year and into my PhD, I printed out a page that had the reference at the top, and then summary of the paper and author's year, all of that, and then I had at the bottom notes and then on the flip side also notes. So I always kept that stapled to papers, not that we do that nowadays, but always have a template of what you got from the paper and what their key elements of the paper are, including your referencing and things like that.
Yeah, because essentially that's just going to help you categorize and like thematically see what is going on, what is there in the literature, so you can slot yourself in for, you know, when you're explaining the significance and originality of your research. That'll help determine that sort of. I'm just wondering, is there a way we can save the data, the database that we, like the sources that we want to keep from the databases? Is there a way we can save them to a specific Excel template like that one? Or does it just automatically save it onto just a brand new Excel like you showed us? Is there a way we can, is there a way, do you know if there's a way we could save it? Because I'm not really savvy with that sort of thing. That's why I'm even doing, this is just, all new for me.
There would be a way you could just transfer it from the Excel into another Excel if you wanted.
Yeah, I was just concerned about the information being inserted into the right columns.
Yeah.
For you, because I don't want to have to like go through everything manually. That would just be time consuming.
Yeah.
So
So another really cool way of doing that is if you're at the beginning of a literature search, is using NVivo to do your themes of each paper. So from here, you can send the papers or the PDFs to NVivo, and then you just go through the papers and you can code the keywords and the key findings and things into NVivo. That's a different workshop that is put on by the SCPA. So, and there is a recording on how to do that in the Blackboard.
Great. What's it? How do you spell it? ENVIVO? Is that it?
NVIVO.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. They've asked me to show you how to save again. So I want to get a big number of papers so I can show you how to do that. So I might take mathematics out and just look at communities of practice in regional, rural, and remote. How many pages did I get? Cool. So I've got 597 papers. So how to save? So at this stage, these are all the papers with all the replications in there. So what we do is we go to page options over on the right-hand side. Look at 50 results per page. Make sure you always apply. That's something I always forget to do and wonder why it's not working. So 50 results come up on each page, and then you go to share. And you put those 50 on the first page into your folder. Then you have to scroll all the way down to the bottom of the 50 every time. I don't know why they don't have the numbers at the top. Go to page 2. Put those into your folder. So it will say results 50 to 100, so you know where you're up to. And you continue that process. Page 3. I will get to the other questions in the chat in a second. Page 4. Share. Make sure you put them all in your folder. Page 5. And soon, the duplicates should get removed. So we're up to 300 papers. Go down the bottom. Add search to folder. It puts a link to the search in your folder so that when you come back, the search remains. I'll show you in a second. I always copy the link to this search so that I can come back and that exact search, I can paste it into the web browser and it will come back to that exact search that I've done. It's very handy. So we're on 400 papers now. So we should be getting our duplicates removed, probably this one or the next one. There we go. So our duplicates got removed. So now we ended up with 496 papers. Put the last 40 or so into the folder. Then we go over here to the right-hand side to folder view. And we export over on the right-hand side. These are all my papers on communities of practice in rural, remote and regional schools. Now I can directly export those to Endnote. So they all go into my Endnote, which is really cool. Or I can put them into that Excel file. So download CSV. Now here, this is a box you can remove the items from the folder after you save them if you're doing multiple searches, or you can keep them in there. That will download an Excel file.
If you download to Endnote from here, does that create a new Endnote library?
No.
Or does it just add to an existing one?
Yeah, it'll go into your current Endnote library, but I'll show you. You can make a folder, or you can create a library out of it, which I have done before to share with. It takes a little bit of time, so we'll just, while that's thinking.
Yep, sorry.
This is the communities of practice. Once again, I'd keep author, maybe, and journal, but I'll probably hide all the rest of it. So I think I can do this faster by going Shift, hide. Excellent. And then making that abstract longer. Selecting all, wrapping the text. There we go. So now this is my rural remote communities of practice. So what I will do now is Control H. And what Control H does, it finds a word and it replaces it with another form of that word or a different word. So if I'm doing community of practice, I want to make it big so I can see it. Yeah, or communities of practice. Might be another way it's said. Yep, there was 350 of those. Whoops. What else? Rural. Found 700 of those. Remote. And regional. Okay, so now in my abstracts, I can see where community of practice has been mentioned, where remote or rural has been mentioned. See, and for this one, it does have communities of practice, but remote is referring to academic development activity were captured through individual remote interviews. So that wouldn't be a paper on communities of practice in rural or regional areas. So you can go through and pick the ones that are relevant. That one doesn't have any of my keywords in it. This one does. Oh, this one's a good one. What is the title of this one? A community of practice approach to enhancing academic integrity policy. So we've got communities of practice at a regional Australian university. Now, that might be relevant unless you're looking at regional, rural and remote schools. As you can see, that's in a university. So your inclusion and exclusion criteria might be schools. But you can go through it. Now I'm going to go into the chat box and see there was another question there about getting too few papers. Firstly, Kayla got 0, then she got 325 after using just her main keywords and removing exclusion criteria. But once she did that, there were only 2 out of the 325 that were relevant to her search. So why do you think that might be? Can we think of a reason that might be happening?
I actually don't know. The terms I put in, like, weren't in any of the titles that came up.
Yep.
And I don't understand why. Like, they were pretty distinct terms and they just weren't there at all.
Yeah.
There were completely different things coming up.
So potentially, yeah, that does happen. And if you have 1,100 papers, you'll probably find about 40 or 50 of them are actually relevant to your actual topic. So there is still a little bit of going through the abstract to make sure. But for your situation, maybe the databases that we have aren't suitable for your topic. Can you tell me what your topic is again?
I'll just pop my question into the chat because it's a long question.
Okay, cool. And I'll see if I can run it.
Just a quick question. If you've done like all the saving and then you're like, oh, I forgot to put that in my inclusion, or I need to get that out because that's now a part of my exclusion list.
Yep.
And you run a new search, does that, when you see the yellow folder, that automatically indicates it's already been saved. So if you're going to share it again, go through every result and share it again, would it eliminate the duplicates once you get to that point where you've got to do that thing to get rid of any duplicates? Does it do that for you at that stage?
Yes, it does.
Okay, cool. I'm so worried then. All right.
You can also, where is it? I'll see if I can find it. You can also save a link to this search, which is really handy. And whenever I do a literature search, I do a word template with my search terms, my keyword terms and the truncation and the Boolean operators, but I also put here it is. This one here that says use a permalink. So if you copy and paste that into your browser, so I've just copied that and then I've exited Ebsco, then I'm like, oh no, I exited and I don't think anything's going to be saved. I can just pop into the web browser that link and it will take me directly back.
Oh, that's amazing. So you're not really losing it.
No. So if you've always got that link, you've always got your search term. Now it's put the whole search into the first bar instead of separating it into the second, which is another way of searching. The same as Scopus, but it comes straight back from that link.
Can I ask you a question? With the search bars, I've got I know that you got to use that, I think it's Pico thing for your, to define what you're searching exactly, and what you're going to be putting into that. So why does it have the second line and third line again? Because I put other things relating to my research into
so you don't have to use all the search terms. Population is usually the first one. So if you've got
population, okay,
adolescents or there we go, or teenagers.
Will it make a difference?
You don't have to use every single search bar. They're just there because they're there. You can
Yeah.
also add search bars.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, depending on what
Right.
you want to look at. So you could really refine
Mm.
your search. If you've got 1,100 papers and you're like, oh, I really want to refine things more, you can put anything into those search topics. You can also do knots. So in my one, I did diet and depression, and I wanted to look in systematic reviews or meta-analyses, but I didn't want to look at children.
Yeah.
So I excluded them, and I also didn't want any papers on elderly or aged or elder or geriatric. So you can do that as well. You can play around with your
That's
inclusion exclusion
amazing.
criteria up here.
Thank you so much for doing this. It actually has saved me so much hassle down the line because I've had to reframe my literature review and my methodology, and terms already started for my research project. So I have so much work, and this is just going to like
Yeah, like I
so
said,
much easier.
this is something that you learn when you're running systematic reviews and meta-analyses. But I'm like, why didn't we get taught this in like undergrad?
Oh,
It's going to save me so much time in so many assessments.
Exactly. And I probably would have done a bit better too in other research assignments. I could have just, could have been a lot better.
Yeah. Okay, so let's have a look at this. So tea tree phosphorus effects on the oil concentration, quality, biomass, and leaf stem ratio of Melaleuca. This is why I think
it's
you're
complex.
having problems, is because you have more than one.
If you have a look in the chat though, I haven't put any of them in my search. I've just put phosphorus and Melaleuca, and I'm getting nothing with phosphorus or Melaleuca. It's bizarre. And I did it in Scopus, by the way.
So is that the one that you have been advised to use for science?
That's the one you just advised me to use.
Okay, cool. So Scopus might not actually, oh, it is the science one. So playing around with the websites is also a good idea. Let's have a look in Web of Science. We'll do that, what you did in Scopus, and see if it comes up with anything different. So we want advanced search. That's annoying. All right, try Scopus then. So did you do title and abstract?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just look outside of title and abstract. Or was that what you did when you got the 325?
I don't know, my exact search is in the chat. So you can see exactly what I looked at.
All right. Oh, cool. Okay. So, yeah, you did title and abstract. And is that one that you put into the chat what you got? So actually, okay, I'll put the whole thing in and we can see what happens if we play around with it. Okay, so we've got title, abstract, and keywords. We've got tea tree or Melaleuca alternifolia. Don't need that one because that will come up if we put Melaleuca and a star. Tea tree and phosphorus.
No, it's spelt right. It doesn't have an O in it, surprisingly. I made that mistake so many times it doesn't.
Yeah, I would have put it on it. And limit to Australia and limit the language to English. So you definitely want to just look at, is tea tree and Melaleuca is native to Australia anyway?
Yeah, it's an Australian plant, so I mostly just wanted Australian results.
Okay, so.
And I'm also doing it because it's specific to Australian soils, so very Australian
okay, so
specific.
you do want to keep that in.
Yep.
I don't know if there will be any papers on that outside of Australia. Is there?
There was a few.
Okay, cool.
But it didn't matter. None of them were relevant.
Okay, so, and limit to English. Okay, so let's search that and see. So we got 139, but none of them had phosphorus or melaleuca. There's melaleuca there, but no phosphorus in the titles. Interesting. Have you run this search in the main search?
In which?
Like here?
Oh yeah, I've done many searches just from there, but not the Scopus one.
Because that will look at, yeah, no, it doesn't like that. It's got all these in it.
Is there a way of excluding papers from America? Because I really don't want to even go there with getting sources from other countries to even benchmark. It's not what I'm really looking to do.
Yeah. So there should be a result. We could simply just do and Australia in the search term. So if you only want papers in Australia, just make Australia one of your search terms.
Thank you.
There's still 211,000 results, which is interesting.
I was looking at those three, like they're nothing to do with what I'm studying.
Yeah. So maybe your topic is so, that's interesting.
I mean,
Maybe
I've
your
got a
topic
lot
is
of
so new.
papers.
Mm,
I have a lot of papers personally
yeah.
that I found just from referencing through other papers I've read, but doing this just anything.
So what that
Like
means
any
is
of
that
the papers I've read.
the databases that we have chosen are not specific enough to that field. So the best thing for you, if you were doing this systematic search for, say, a review for your thesis, is go to the librarians, give them your topic, and the librarians will be able to tell you, because you've got a specific science librarian, they will be able to tell you which databases will specifically have those papers in it. The problem today is that we're not using the correct ones.
All right.
But these are all the issues that you come up against, and hence why I say go to the librarians. They are amazing, and they love doing this stuff, and it takes them like 10 minutes. You'll sit there for like half a day being like, why do I only have 2 papers? And then you'll go and sit with the librarian, and 10 minutes later they will have every single paper on your topic.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I'll have to work out how to book in.
Oh, work out how to book in. It's hard, actually.
Thank you.
Let's see if I can figure it out. What is happening to my internet? It's so weird. We've only got 10 minutes. Let's see. All right, here's the library. Let's figure out how to make an appointment. Does anyone know how to do this? I always get lost. There should be like a big button down here that says book an appointment with a librarian.
I usually give in and go down to the little thing that says library chat, and somebody helps me down there.
Yeah, it's a.
I know there's a better system, but I can never work it out either.
I can never as well. I'm just going to see if I can find it. Research, maybe? No. Ooh, your librarian? Ooh, here we go. No, they're just the emails. I wonder why this is so difficult. Study. Get help. Ooh. Yes, please. Make an appointment. Here it is. So it's under the Get Help section. Postgraduates and staff are linked together. Select your librarian. Where's our business, law, humanities, education, science? Rachel Ritchie, Jill Parks, and Carly Necrosov. She's amazing, Carly. I've actually worked with her before. So you just type in your day and they will tell you which time slots are available for those librarians. So it's in the get help, study, get help. I should write that on a sticky note. Gonna. Because I always spend ages trying to find it. But yeah, they're always my first point of call. Does anyone have any questions? I know there's a few chats. I'll have a look in the chat box.
You mentioned earlier, Megan, that there are school or faculty specific librarians.
Yes.
How would we find out who they are and how to contact those people?
So go to the library. I'll go back and I'll show you. So you're in Ed, aren't you? So if we go to the library, wherever it is, and we go study more, get help, make an appointment, Faculty of Ed, Sintamani and Marin. Chintzy's cool as well.
That's literally the thing you just showed us a second ago. I feel like a goofball. Thank you.
Don't. Like I said, we get lost every time.
That's so good. You should have just made a sticky note.
Megan, can I just pop in there, because I use on the front page of the library, when you go straight in, on the far right where it says top links, you'll find it actually says make an appointment with a librarian, and when you press on the postgraduate, it actually brings up all the different faculties.
Yep.
And then you just go in straight away, and it takes you.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's actually on the front page in the top links section.
Let's have a look.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm in there now.
I'm like it right here, this one that says get help.
No, I just go to the library link. If you go up to the library, press on library, yeah?
Yep.
Is it coming? Yes, no? Oh, is that
That's
what you get? Oh, well, in my page, when I go into my site, on the far right, it actually has the top links for the students.
Oh, okay, cool.
So if anyone wants to check that, because that's what I've always used. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Thank you so much.
You are welcome.
Any more questions? If you get lost or you have any questions while you're doing it, potentially just watch the recording. I'll send the recording out and you can watch the recording as you're doing your database search as well. And pause and rewind and fast forward my annoying instructions. Well, if that's it, I will say thank you for joining me today and thank you for being polite. Most of you. And I will see you all soon.
Thank you. Congratulations again, by the way.
No problem. Thank you. I'm so stoked. And I think that it's really important to know that, to give hope to other students that things will happen.
I appreciate that. I actually felt like I kind of needed to hear that on some level. So no,
yeah.
I appreciate it.
I seriously just spent 3 years worrying about nothing and really, really getting myself worked up about nothing.
I feel like we all tend to do it. I mean, I can't talk. I'm a culprit for that as well. But yeah, things do just fall into place as they should.
Yeah.
I think that's just the main thing you need to take away from life.
And if you're
it will be what it will
learning,
be.
you're constantly learning, upgrading your skills, and doing all the things that you get told by your supervisors, it will happen.
Yeah, 100%. All right. Well, thank you so much again. I'm going to apply everything. It's been just,
Amazing.
yeah, mind opening. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I'll see you later.
Thank you, Megan. Bye.
Bye.